San Francisco International Airport, one of the busiest in the US, is no stranger to heavy air traffic. But on one seemingly ordinary day, this bustling airport became the scene of a terrifying near collision. The clock was ticking as an MD-80, loaded with passengers, prepared to land. The MD-80 was on final approach, just 2 meters from the ground, ready to touch down smoothly. But the calm atmosphere quickly shattered when an unexpected, horrifying situation unfolded. Without any warning, an AirAsia Airbus A330 appeared at the intersection of the runway, entering it with no clearance from ATC. This was a catastrophic violation of basic aviation protocols. The A330 had no business being there, especially as the MD-80 was already committed to landing. The A330, instead of waiting or aborting its entry, accelerated. At this point, the two aircraft were dangerously close, barely a few centimeters apart. The MD-80 had no choice but to continue its landing, while the A330 started its takeoff roll directly behind the descending plane. As the MD-80's wheels touched the tarmac, the A330 was barely a few meters away from its tail, racing to lift off. The sudden turbulence from the A330's engines nearly caused the MD-80 to veer off course. But that wasn't the only problem. The Airbus A330 itself was struggling. It was unstable as it tried to take off, and for a brief moment, it seemed like it might stall before gaining control. Seconds felt like hours as the crew in the A330 fought to regain stability, finally pulling away from the runway just in time. The tension was palpable. Pilot violations and errors. Now, let's break down the series of mistakes that led to this close call. Runway incursion. The A330 entered an active runway without proper clearance. This is a severe safety violation. Even after the MD-80 was on final approach, the Airbus pilot ignored basic protocol and crossed an active runway boundary. Failure to yield to landing aircraft. According to standard procedures, a plane that has been cleared to land has the right of way over any aircraft preparing to take off. The A330 pilot failed to yield, putting both planes at great risk. Unsafe takeoff in proximity to another aircraft. The A330's takeoff in close proximity to the MD-80, with only a few meters separating the two, was reckless. Takeoff procedures require a clear runway and no risk of collision with landing aircraft. Failure of ATC coordination. ATC also missed a critical point in the sequence of events. There was no immediate communication to the A330 to abort its entry, and no immediate directive to ensure the runway was clear. This gap in coordination added to the danger. How could this be prevented? As the A330 started its engines and took off, it caused significant turbulence that affected the MD-80. The wake turbulence from the larger Airbus jet could have potentially knocked the smaller MD-80 off course. Additionally, the A330 was still struggling to gain full control, experiencing instability just as it began to lift off. Close call. With the A330 speeding down the runway just behind the MD-80, there was barely enough time for both aircraft to avoid a catastrophic collision. The MD-80 landed just in time, with only centimeters separating the two aircraft. Meanwhile, the A330 barely managed to take off after a nerve-wracking struggle to regain control. Why did this happen? Runway incursion. The A330 should never have entered the active runway while the MD-80 was landing. This breach of runway protocol is a severe violation of aviation safety rules. ATC miscommunication. Either ATC did not properly communicate to the A330 pilot, or the pilot failed to follow the correct instructions. Proper sequencing and clearance procedures were not followed. Pilot error. The A330 pilot ignored the rule to yield to landing aircraft and initiated takeoff on an occupied runway. How to prevent this? Stricter ground control. Air traffic controllers must carefully manage runway usage, ensuring that no aircraft enters a runway without clearance, and that no takeoffs occur if another plane is landing. Runway incursion prevention technology. Runway safety systems, like runway status lights, RSL, and surface movement radar, SMR, can help detect and prevent unauthorized runway entries. Clearer communication. Both pilots and ATC should follow protocols for confirming runway clearances, and any doubt should result in immediate halts or go-arounds.